Welcome back to Ion Agriculture. I'm Britton Rucker. As wheat growers evaluate their wheat stand, some may consider replanting fields yet this fall due to a variety of factors, including flooding in the fields. We're joined by Romulo Lollato, Extension Wheat and Forages Specialist at Kansas State University. Romulo, why has this fall been challenging for winter wheat establishment in Kansas and the southern Great Plains?
Britton, thanks for having me here today. And essentially, it has been challenging because the rains didn't come when they should have, right? So essentially, we had some early rains in September in the western part of the state that triggered planting in that region, and then things really dried out. With the exception of some rains that came by in the mid to late October in north central Kansas, the remaining of the state was actually very dry, and we missed all of those rains that usually really provide a good stand for us in this time of the year, late September, early to mid-October, right, which is our optimum planting date. So now the month of November has been much wetter, as you mentioned, issues with flooding and so on, right? And so definitely now drought is not necessarily an issue anymore. But during the optimum planting window, drought was a big factor, and that led to many stands that didn't come up on time, and also many stands that perhaps came up very scattered, or parts of the field that didn't come up at all, right? So those were issues that growers were facing this fall.
So what steps should wheat growers take to evaluate whether replanting is necessary?
Yeah, so replanting at this point in time could increase yields later on in a few conditions, right? And so a few things that the growers need to be doing right now to define whether they should replant wheat or not is first evaluate their crop right now. What's the stand now in that crop? And when doing that, try to see if the problem is across the entire field or only in scattered parts of the field, right? Like terrace tops or something along these lines. That, depending on how the pattern is in the field, different types of replanting will have to occur there. Also, they need to evaluate their percent stand, how many plants they have out there versus where they would like to be. Replanting date is also an important thing to consider now. It is late November already, and growers are pushing it, especially in parts of the state where their yield potential may have been reduced considerably. One other thing to keep in mind is with different planting dates within the same field, you have crops developing at different times. So you have different growth stages in the same field. Now that's important for herbicide decisions, right? Many of our herbicides, they have restrictions regarding crop growth stage, and so having different stages in the same field makes weed control challenging simply because parts of the field may be within a given range for herbicide application, and other parts might not. This becomes especially important early fall and later in the spring when the crop is approaching jointing. And finally, insurance cutoff dates, right? We're probably past for the majority of the state now, so growers need also to consider that when they're making replanting decisions. But essentially, if they have about 50% or so of the stand still remaining there, our recommendation is to maintain that stand because wheat crop can tether and compensate for a lot of that space.
Well, Romulo, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with me. Everyone, stick around. Ion Ag will be back after the break.